The events in this program are based on a true story. Names, dates, and details have been changed. Coming up on Bizarre Murders. When an innocent church scavenger hunt unexpectedly leads to a dead body, all signs point to foul play. To catch the killer, detectives will enter into a world of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And this hunt is far from fun and games. Seattle, Washington, 2006. A seemingly quiet Halloween night, Detective Tyler Booker is enjoying a quiet patrol. He's reminiscing about his first case just weeks before, an open and shut homicide by a jealous husband. He's curious if every case will be so easy to solve. Perhaps it's a cruel irony that he then spots a man's leg sticking out from behind a dumpster near the local church. Detective Booker discovers what could be a discarded Halloween decoration of a dead body. But becoming suspicious, Booker checks the body for a pulse, only to realize to his horror that it's an authentic corpse.
It probably doesn't surprise anyone that bodies are found on Halloween, and there's hardly a tougher time to investigate because you've got kids from wall to wall. They've all got masks on, good and bad, and really, it's a recipe for disaster.
Detective Booker discovers an alarming clue placed conveniently over the body. Written on a poster board are the words, "Yes, Matthew is dead, but his body not felt." Those brains were not Matt's because his body did melt. For Billy threw Matthew in some hot boiling oil to confuse the police. For the mystery, they did toil. He quickly calls for backup.
This is Agent Booker. I got 1144. Requesting backup, over.
When you arrive at a crime scene where there's a body, you have to determine whether this person who is dead because they killed themselves or they accidentally overdosed. Because if that's the case, you can go home and let the coroner take over. But if he was killed by somebody else, that means there's a murderer out there.
Police begin a search of the immediate area, scouring the church grounds for any more clues or accidental evidence the killer may have left behind. What they find are more and more riddles. The next one, found under the mat of the church door, reads, "A quick search inside to find the source of sin, and then near the cemetery to find its victim again." Deciphering the riddle to mean another murder victim could be found in the cemetery or possibly the church's sanctuary, the detectives split up, beginning a wild goose chase for another body.
30 years of movies and TV have inadvertently created a new kind of narcissistic criminal mastermind. The detectives who investigate these kind of crimes tend to lump them into two categories. The first is the eye roll, because these people are never as smart as they think they are. But the second one is the chill down the spine, because if these people think they got away with it the first time, there's going to be a second time.
Police find nothing inside the church, but Detective Booker returns with another riddle from the cemetery. The last clue to end your search: find the altar where Noah's dove would perch. It's an odd clue, and one that leaves everyone of the police force absolutely baffled.
The next thing they've got to do is identify the body, because if the detectives can't make heads or tails of this nice little riddle the killer left, then all they've got is the information Mr. Happy behind the dumpster is going to give them. But they've got to work fast because there's a sick killer out there.
Checking the victim's wallet leads to an identification. The ID belongs to Kurt Flair, a local drug addict and petty theft known to many of the officers at the scene due to prior arrests. But the ID also leaves another clue. The fact that it's there means his killer never had any intention of hiding the identity of his victim. This and the riddles left behind could mean every detective's worst nightmare. It's a random killing. Now they have to hope the toxicology report will come back with new evidence that can help point them in the right direction. In the meantime, Detective Booker takes the riddles in for DNA testing, but the case hits another speed bump when they can't find a matching fingerprint in their database.
The good news is, if this is his first murder, or even his first crime, he's probably not very good at it. And you know how he's learning how to do it? From TV and movies. And cops watch TV and movies too.
Detective Booker's new job just got a whole lot tougher, as he is left to notify Kurt's mother, Karen, of his passing and question her. Karen Flair, sporting a rap sheet that includes prostitution and drug abuse, is no stranger to the Seattle Police Department. And when Booker finds her, she's right in the middle of a bender. The news of Kurt's death barely affects her at all. She says the last time she and Kurt spoke, he had just gotten out of rehab and was swearing he would remain sober. Booker asked her for a list of people who might want to see Kurt dead, but she can't come up with any names.
Consider the world of drug users. They run the gamut from multiple murderers to junkies who wouldn't hurt a fly. And they all have two things in common. Number one, they've seen everything, done everything, been around the block. And number two, none of them will talk to the police.
Coming up short, he turns to the autopsy report to find that Kurt's cause of death was at the hands of a drug called a speedball, an often lethal mix of heroin and cocaine. Across town, police find a solid lead in a drug dealer, Ace Horowitz, who was often seen running in the same circles as Kurt. They quickly bring him in for questioning.
One great thing about drug dealers is if you threaten to charge them with a crime, like accessory to murder, they become very helpful.
According to Ace, Kurt seemingly found religion and sought Ace out to convert him to the faith and save him from his sinful ways. But when Ace wouldn't accept Kurt's help, the two argued and were never to be seen together again. Not having any hard evidence to keep Ace in their custody, he is released. But something about his story strikes Booker as odd. He realized that he never told Ace that Kurt's body was found near a church. But still, Ace told them that Kurt had recently converted to Christianity. Booker quickly realizes his mistake and rallies a group to round him up again. They approach Ace's dilapidated apartment and knocked on the door.
Ace, open up!
Only to find nobody is home. Having probable cause, they quickly burst inside, only to find his apartment empty. A series of riddles hangs above a murder site at a church on Halloween night. When the mother of the deceased claims she hasn't seen her son Kurt in months, police shake down local drug dealer Ace Horowitz. But bad turns to worse when Ace disappears. As officers continue to search for Ace, Detective Booker returns to the scene of the crime one last time to search for more clues. But when he arrives, he finds a group of gawking teenagers waiting outside the crime scene tape, eager to learn what has taken place recently. Showing a little bit of a facial tic, the leader of the group introduces himself as Jeff Torringson, the son of the church's preacher, Pastor Torringson. Thinking that it's possible the kids could know something, Booker explains that the body of Kurt Flair was found on the church grounds 2 nights prior, and that they are still looking for any leads that could help them find his killer. Jeff tells Detective Booker that Kurt was a part of their youth group, and that he had not been answering their calls to attend a Christian rock concert with the band Praise. Upon further questioning, Kurt's standing as a newly devoted Jesus freak becomes all the more apparent as Jeff and his friends rattle on about Kurt's persistence in attending every youth group function the church offered. Jeff even claims that Kurt had expressed interest in attending seminary school, and his father, Pastor Torringson, had promised to pay for it. Booker is stunned to discover that some of Ace Horowitz's story is true, which makes his evading of police all the more suspicious.
Now police don't know what to think because the revelation that Kurt was an active church member corroborates Ace's story, and it also explains why Kurt wouldn't be living with his mother, but police still don't know why he left.
To bypass another rant about church camp activities and trivial kumbaya-esque mantras of faith, Detective Booker asks to speak with Jeff's father before he himself is accidentally converted to Christianity.
Thank you guys again. We really appreciate it.
Detective Booker questions Pastor Torringson on Kurt's history with the church and finds a colorful redemption story. Coming from an unsteady home, Kurt drifted from drug fix to drug fix before a series of stints in rehab finally set him straight. Kurt soon found his way to Paul's congregation, became a born-again Christian, and just recently celebrated 9 months of sobriety from both heroin and alcohol. He was welcomed to the church family by most of the parish and even developed a close bond with Paul himself. When Kurt told the pastor about his tumultuous living situation, the preacher let him stay at the church for as long as he needed.
Religious conversions of drug addicts, we hear it every day, and sometimes we're skeptical about them, but this one seemed real. So if that's true and Kurt was clean, why is he laying dead from a speedball overdose? And why is Ace Horowitz in the wind?
After Paul's voluntary interview, Booker informs him of the clues the alleged killer left behind all over the crime scene. But when Booker shows him the riddles, the pastor suddenly turns pale.
There's nothing wrong.
Pastor Torringson explains that he was the one who wrote the riddles, but never intended for them to appear at the scene of a murder.
Now this is a monkey wrench that changes everything.
Paul says that he made the riddles that morning for a Halloween scavenger hunt for the youth group, but because of the holiday, there was a lower turnout than he expected, and the scavenger hunt was to be postponed until the next weekend. He just forgot to take the clues down.
And just like that, all their theories get tossed out of the window. These aren't a series of murderous riddles. These are biblical allusions. There's no genius killer out there. I mean, is there a killer at all? I mean, this could simply be a suicide.
But Detective Booker still has questions to his dissolving mystery that continue to push his investigation in the direction of homicide. He wonders aloud to his partner, if it was a suicide that Ace Horowitz wasn't involved with, why was he running? And since when does a drug addict relapse into a drug as hard as speedball?
Drug use is tricky at best, and seasoned addicts know that if you're going to relapse, you shouldn't dive in too hard and heavy because you might die. Kurt Flair had been a drug user the bulk of his life, so he should have known better, and police wondered, was this overdose accidental?
Then, 2 more clues fall into Detective Booker's lap. After another scan of the murder scene, police find a small baggie with drug residue in the bushes nearby where Kurt's body was found. On the bag is a fingerprint that detectives hope will finally point to a killer. Pastor Torringson also tells police that the day of the scavenger hunt, a small amount of money went missing from the church. Detectives now have a new possible theory. Did Kurt Flair rob the church in order to purchase drugs? And if so, did he purchase them from Ace Horowitz? Police quickly send the drug baggie over to discover just who the mystery fingerprint belongs to. On Halloween, Detective Tyler Booker discovers the body of an ex-drug addict, Kurt Flair, behind a church dumpster. Fortunately, the clues police believed were left by the killer were actually meant for the church's scavenger hunt. Now, Booker's last lead is a mysterious fingerprint left on a drug bag. Police finally corner Ace at a local hangout and bring him in. But as Ace is waiting to be charged, another twist is thrown into the case. The fingerprints on the baggie don't belong to Ace Horowitz. In fact, the prints don't belong to anyone in the database at all.
Okay, picture this. Every cop in the department is figuring the last pieces of the puzzle are fitting in, and this drug dealer is going down. And now it's been several days since they've had a lead of any kind, and this guy, this drug dealer, he might not even be responsible?
But Detective Booker still has one last Hail Mary play up his sleeve. Police know that Ace was selling drugs the week of Kurt's death, and now they know that money went missing from the church the day Kurt died. They assume that somebody from the church purchased the drugs, and they also assume that they purchased those drugs from Ace because of his previous connection with Kurt. Ace knows that he's not getting out of this without some sort of penalty. He begins asking for immunity to being an accessory for murder.
You're gonna have to give me something good.
The detectives bite, convincing him to give his story a new coat of paint. Ace admits to selling drugs the morning of Kurt's death, but he claims he never sold anything to Kurt and hadn't since Kurt converted to Christianity. When asked by detectives why he ran away from police, Ace explained that the only alibi he had the night of Kurt's death was that he paid Kurt's mother, Karen, for sex and was otherwise occupied.
You want to know the truth?
Yes.
I was banging his mom.
Now police are feeling kind of foolish because not only is this guy not the Riddler that they thought he was, when police looked into Ace's alibi, it checked out because he was sleeping with Kurt's mom.
Detectives quickly track down Karen and confirm his alibi, leading them to their next question. Who did you sell drugs to on the morning of Kurt's death? Ace runs through a mental list of his clientele, but every name he gives Booker appears in the police database and isn't a match for the fingerprint on the drug baggie found at the crime scene. Booker presses harder. Finally, Ace recalls a client that day, someone who seemed as though they were a first-time buyer. Ace claims he never got a name from this mystery client, but describes him as an older, short, nerdy teenager with a slight facial tic. Detective Booker is quick to put a name to a face. Jeff Torringson, the pastor's son. Police quickly race over to the church. Booker arrests Jeff Torringson on the charge of homicide. In processing, detectives are able to score a match of Jeff's fingerprints on the drug baggie found at the scene of the crime.
Now things are starting to fit into place. They know who the fingerprints belong to, they've got somebody connected to both Kurt and Ace, and they've got the crime scene. But you can have all the evidence in the world, but you still need motive, and they don't got it.
Jeff admits to purchasing the drugs from Horowitz, but claims he never intended for Kurt to overdose. He says that in recent meetings, he had considered Kurt to become more withdrawn and quiet. He was worried he was on the verge of a relapse. Having learned from his father how to deal and treat drug addicts, Jeff claims he meant to buy a small dosage, not a sandbag, so that Kurt could get an easy fix without fully relapsing.
The idea is not totally unheard of, but there's something not adding up. And police can't help but think that Jeff's being a little disingenuous.
Police press harder, grilling Jeff for hours. If he was only trying to help, why did he steal money from the church instead of paying for the drugs himself? Why did he leave Kurt behind the dumpster under the clues to be discovered by just anyone? With all their leads spent, Detective Booker finally thinks he makes the right connection for motive. And he hits Jeff hard with it. Detective Booker continues to press for information that it was the pastor's son, Jeff Torrenson, who made the drug purchase. But in Jeff's interrogation, he claims he just wanted to help ease him through a relapse. But Detective Booker isn't buying it. Booker remembers the one thing that could function as a motive. Jeff's father was planning on paying for Kurt's seminary school. Booker rails on Jeff, pushing him until he finally breaks and admits that he murdered Kurt because he felt as though he was being replaced as his father's only son. The morning of Kurt's murder, Jeff stole money from the church, purchased the speedball from Ace, and then blackmailed Kurt by saying that if he didn't take all the drugs, he would tell everyone that it was Kurt who stole the money.
Take it.
At the church, Jeff points his dad's gun at Kurt and forces him to inhale the speedball. When Kurt overdosed, Jeff moved the body behind the dumpster under his father's scavenger hunt clue, left to make an alibi for himself, and planned to return the following morning to discover Kurt dead and report it to police. With his confession, Jeff Torrenson was charged with first-degree murder and charged with 25 years to life in prison.
Jeff fell victim to a number of deadly sins: wrath, pride, but mainly envy. He was jealous of his father's relationship with Kurt. And in the end, he's going to find out that it's difficult serving God while you're also serving life without parole.
For close to 10 years, Martha has been a well-liked and respected nurse at St. Michael's Hospital. The one thing that's missing in her life is love. Someone to complete her. The yin to her yang. Martha, then 33, takes out a personal ad in the hopes of finding Mr. Right.
Fun, loving, looking for a man to share my life with. Been around the block a few times, but I have plenty more miles ahead.
Yeah, me too, Martha.
Ron, a war veteran who works as a building super, answers.
Oh.
Hi, is this Martha?
It is?
I saw your ad in the lustful love letters. I'm sorry, it's the first time I've ever done anything on this site.
It's my first time too. What's your name?
This is Ron. I didn't know what to say or what.
Ron is divorced with one child, but Martha is smitten, describing the match as an oldie but a goodie.
I spent 25 years in the FBI, and I learned that finding love through a personal ad can be pretty risky. I remember one case where the person who answered the ad was actually a serial killer wanted for 6 murders, and he ate his victims. Like the worst kind of dinner date, really. Luckily, the local authorities got to him before he made it 7.
After a month-long courtship over the phone, Martha and Ron finally meet in person. 6 months later, they're hitched. Their marriage is a match made in heaven. Ron is the love of Martha's life. The happy couple spent all their days together, and nights. But over time, Ron retreats from Martha, preferring to spend his time alone with his collection of sports memorabilia. Ron becomes obsessed with money and the value of his collection. Martha's concerned. This is not the man she married, and a far cry from Martha's own upbeat personality. After 7 years, the marriage develops an itch that needs scratching.
Ron's withdrawal from Martha and the world, as well as his growing obsession with his sports collection, were red flags. And it seems like we've got an inner demon situation going on here.
Ron's fixation with money becomes obsessive.
Look what I got. This is the one I've wanted for a long time.
He resents that his wife brings in more money than he does. And Ron becomes paranoid of losing all his belongings.
Ron, dinner's gonna be ready around 6:30. Green bean.
Hands off. It's mine. It's a lot more expensive than this costume jewelry, I'll tell you that.
It's a ball, Ron.
This is the most expensive ball you'll ever have in your hands.
It's a ball.
You just don't get it.
I don't know. I don't know what to do. He spends all of his time in the basement, down there with his sports stuff. He's always angry.
Well, when he's angry, what do you mean? Like, is he verbally abusive or?
Yeah?
Martha confides to her close friend Barbara that Ron is chronically angry and always blaming everyone but himself for his problems.
But I do get scared.
She thinks it could have something to do with his time in the
I
military.
don't know what to do.
It's not uncommon for war veterans, and I've known some, to suffer from depression and anxiety. These days, we have a name for it, PTSD, and it's an ugly thing.
Could Ron's wartime trauma be finally catching up with him? Although he doesn't like to discuss the war, he tells Martha that he saw serious combat when he was in country with special ops.
Serious combat with special ops? Oh, no, no. The official record states that Ron spent the war tied to a desk. I'd say someone is feeling a little inadequate because he didn't see any action at all.
Things start to look up for Ron when he lands his dream job as manager of Adult Zone, a chain of porno stores in Spokane.
Believe it or not, Ron himself has no interest in porn. He's just reading the articles. Actually, what he's really interested in is the money. He isn't getting rich, but it's a well-paid gig with benefits and stability, and he doesn't have to answer to anybody. He's the boss, at least when it came to cleaning up. And that's what Ron really wanted to do, clean up.
Over the following 10 months, as his paranoia and rage continued to grow, his new career at the porno store brings Ron into contact with some nasty characters.
Hey, man. Hey, it's closed. We're closed.
I'm Jerry. I'm here for the job.
Hey, Jerry. I've been expecting you.
Thanks,
huh?
man.
Name's Ron.
One of his employees, Jerry, is a real sleazy dude with a rap sheet a mile long. Jerry also has a mean and expensive appetite for hard drugs. Cocaine, speed, crack, you name it. And he's always broke.
Ron doesn't have a criminal record or anything, but he and Jerry become fast friends. Both are ex-military. Both resent the world and see themselves as victims, though. Ron and Jerry bond over shared grievances, both real and imagined.
The new job only fuels Ron's obsession with money. He lies to Martha about the amounts he's making and stockpiles thousands in the den without her knowledge.
In Ron's collapsing psyche, he's the victim. That's not uncommon. Everybody's out to get him. He's got to defend himself. He's got to prepare for the worst. He's got to prepare for Armageddon.
My honey went into the basement and now he's non-existent. All you talk about is money, Ron. All you talk about is money and you shut up.
Shut up.
Martha's a compassionate person and can take a lot. She's a nurse, after all. But she's starting to worry about her safety.
In the basement trying to secure our future. I don't ever want to come home to this.
Get out, Ron. I can't do it anymore. I want you to leave.
I'll leave.
So at 59 years old, Mr. Porn Shop is forced to move back home with his father. Sure, you can call it a dream life, but things aren't looking up for old Ron.
And then, things go from bad to worse for Ron. Without warning or explanation, he loses his job at Adult Zone. What do you have to do to get fired from a porno store?
Can you come over? I just think we need to talk.
Then Ron finally catches a break Like an eager puppy begging for a scrap of food, Ron is hopeful that Martha has seen the error of her ways, realized she can't live without him, and wants to patch things back up.
Hi. It's your favorite.
Really? You thought a flower was gonna make up for how you've treated me?
Yeah?
But then Martha drops the bomb.
It's over, Ron. I want a divorce.
A divorce means that Ron will lose half of the house, his share of Martha's pension and benefits, and all the cash he's stashed away in the den.
Ron's not the kind of guy to go down without a fight. He isn't about to sit back and lose half of the house, all of Martha's money, money that, as far as he's concerned, is owed to him. No way, not a chance. He wants revenge.
Lucky for Ron, he knows just the kind of guy who can help him solve his problem.
No, I want her out of the picture. Permanently.
Jerry is desperate for cash to fuel his out-of-control drug addiction and clear his debts. It doesn't take him long to decide.
I'll give you half now, and half later when the job's done.
Deal.
Deal. And don't use the knife.
No knife.
We gotta be creative about this, Jerry.
Acting like they actually know what they're doing, Ron and Jerry weigh the pros and cons of which weapon to use.
How about the drill?
And what, stage a home repair accident?
All right, no drill.
No drill.
Strangle. Yeah, that's the ticket.
Jerry, that's the time my mom gave me.
How about a gun?
Guns are loud, the neighbors are gonna hear, and the hammer. Huh?
A handgun is the better weapon to use for a guaranteed kill, because a hammer can be a messy affair, and messy equals evidence. But a handgun makes an incredibly loud sound unless you have a silencer, and these idiots don't. And 2/3 of all murders in the US are done with a gun. One thing's for sure, though, if you're debating this topic, you're either the police or a cold-blooded maniac.
All the way back, all the way.
After much deliberation, Jerry decides to use a hammer. A silent blow or two to Martha's head should do the trick. To throw off the police, they decide to make it look like a burglary gone sideways. They'll move around some of Ron's sports memorabilia as though that's what the thieves were after. Pure genius.
Flip it. What are you doing?
It's just a ball.
You're just like her.
If the idea is to make the crime look like a robbery for a sports collection, unless you're O.J. Simpson, this is going to be a bit of a stretch.
As soon as you open the door, with the key, triggers the alarm. You have 30 seconds to put the code in. 4, 5, 6, number sign. What is it?
4, 5,
Oh, Jesus, Jerry, what comes after 5?
6.
Look, write it down, okay?
Okay.
4, 5, 6,
4,
numbers.
5.
And then it's probably not a great idea for the robber to have a house key and know how to deactivate the alarm. I mean, how would the perp be able to do that? There doesn't seem to be any logic here at all. Maybe that's just my 25 years in the FBI talking. I don't know.
Martha gets a surprise call at work from Ron.
Hey, it's me. I just want to let you know I'm going to get away for a few days, okay? I'm stressed out. I just need to clear my head.
Okay. Where are you gonna go?
Just up north somewhere, just at a motel. I just wanted to let you know, okay? Look, I gotta go.
Okay, Ron. What do we have to do?
Ron thinks he's clever, which is wonderful for law enforcement. He calls his soon-to-be ex-wife to establish an alibi. Now he waits in a cheap motel for his degenerate friend Jerry to bludgeon Martha to death with a hammer. Nice couple of guys.
After a 12-hour shift, a hammer to the head should be a death blow. But Martha is one tough cookie.
Did we mention that as a nurse, Martha has self-defense training? Well, she does, and she's got plenty of experience using it. Fearing she's about to die, Martha shows serious smarts and instinct by biting her attacker. Her teeth marks could be used as identification.
Martha isn't about to let her attacker get the best of her. She'll fight to the bitter end if that's what it takes.
Who are you? Who are you? I'm your killer. We'll get you.
The epic fight lasts almost 30 minutes. It's a brutal battle to the death.
Jerry obviously didn't think that little old Martha would be a match for him. He was wrong, dead wrong. She was much more than a match for him.
Martha has turned the tables on the attacker. And killed him with her bare hands. Battered and bloodied, Martha runs to her neighbor and calls the police.
The stress for a paranoiac like Ron is immense. I mean, what could be taking Jerry so long? He should have called hours ago. Ron is most definitely losing his mind at this point, at least what mind he has left.
Detective Maxwell is the investigator assigned to the case. Thanks to Jerry's total lack of intelligence, investigators easily identify him at the scene. That's so Jerry.
After 25 years in the FBI, let me give you a pro tip. Don't bring your wallet to the scene of the crime.
Investigators then discover a note in Martha's house left by Ron.
The note is obviously meant to bolster his alibi, but the investigators were made simply more suspicious. In a case like this, where there's an estranged spouse, they're an automatic suspect. In fact, statistically, almost half of all women who are murdered in America are killed by people they know, usually a current or former boyfriend or spouse.
At approximately 1 p.m., the day after the attack, Martha's friend Barbara gets a call from Ron.
Hello?
Hi, Barbara. It's Ron. I just saw Martha's house on the news. Is everything okay?
You haven't heard? She was attacked.
Oh my gosh. Is she all right?
She's roughed up, but she's okay. She's gonna pull through.
Did they know who attacked her? What happened to him?
He's dead.
Oh my God.
Once Ron gets over the shock and awe that Martha survived the attack, he's desperate to track her down. He calls the hospital, but the investigators tell Martha and the staff to conceal her whereabouts and give Ron nothing.
Jerry, you idiot! Jerry!
Four days after the attack, Martha, having recovered remarkably quickly from the injuries inflicted upon her by her attacker Jerry, is released from the hospital.
So we're not making this up. It turns out that in Jerry's backpack was an envelope with a couple of bucks. And oh yeah, he also left a daybook entry with "Call Ron" on it. It's the crucial clue in the case. It connects Jerry directly to Ron. You remember what I said about bringing personal belongings to the crime scene? Honestly, I don't think Jerry could have been any more stupid if he'd tried.
Now the investigators need to locate Ron as soon as possible. They track down his son Mike, who tells them he's actually been in touch with his father. He then mentioned that he's worried because the last time they were together, Mike discovered a revolver hidden in his father's drawer.
The investigators are up against the clock. Ron is desperate, and he's volatile, and he's paranoid. These are very bad things that, in my experience, make him more than a suspect. He's a high-risk suspect. The investigators convince Ron's son, Mike, to call his father to coax him back to Spokane without revealing that he's wanted for questioning.
Once Ron returns to town, the police take him into custody and question him about his alibi.
What I meant to say is Thursday evening. It was Wednesday. I was there for lunch. During that.
Okay, here's Criminal 101. If you're going to create an alibi, you gotta stick with the one version of what happened. Ron just can't keep his story straight, and it becomes obvious that he's making it up as he's going along. He's lying through his teeth.
Ron repeatedly gets his timeline mixed up, confusing Tuesday for Wednesday, Wednesday for Friday. The discrepancies in his story pose enough grounds for the investigators to arrest him. Ron is charged with attempted murder and conspiracy. Hoping for a lighter sentence, he pleads guilty and avoids a trial. The court gives him 15 years.
Martha's actions are considered justifiable as self-defense, duh, and she isn't charged with killing Jerry.
With Ron behind bars, Martha officially divorces him. She now goes by Martha Smith.
The moral of this story is, don't mess with nurses. They're good people who want to help you. But if you want to kill them, you better be tougher than you think they are, because they'll kick your sorry ass. Oh, and one other thing. If you plan on being a low-life criminal, don't bring your ID to the crime scene, okay? Ever. Not once. Never a good idea.